Hi, this is a demo of our blockchain product used to digitize letter of credit. We have named this portal Chain Finance. First, we'll be logging in to the issuing bank's account. The issuing bank has received a request from the seller to create an LOC. Now that the LOC details have been filled, we press the save button and an LOC is generated. Thus, LOC of LOC ID test21 is generated. We can now have a look at the LOC status for different stakeholders. This is why we have opened multiple tabs. First, we are having a look at the LOC status for the issuing bank. There are a lot of LOCs created. We have to identify the LOC with test21. Clearly we see that the LOC issuing is done and all other notifications are pending. Let us have a look whether this is the same for other banks. Now we are in the advising bank portal. Again, we need to identify the LOC with test ID 21. Again, we note that the LOC issuing is done and all other status are pending. Now we move on to the seller. Again, we make search for LOC with test ID 21, test 21. We note that LOC issuing has been done and all other notifications are pending. Next, we move on to nominated bank. On searching for LOC with test21 as ID, we note that issuing of LOC has been done and all other status are pending. Thus, we note that in this blockchain, the status notifications are clearly shown for all stakeholders. Thus far, we have noted that the letter of credit has been successfully generated. The next role is that of the advising bank. This bank has to approve the letter of credit and notify the seller. The LOC ID is test21 and the advising bank approves this. Now that it has been successfully approved, we can see the LOC status as before. Searching for test21. We note that both LOC issuing and the advising bank approval has been done. Further, the seller has also been notified to upload documents of lading. Now we move on to the seller's page. First, let's check whether the status has been reflected for the seller. We clearly note that for LOC with test ID test21, LOC issuing has been done, advising bank approval has been done, and seller has been notified to upload documents. The seller uploads documents for the LOC with ID test21. Let us check whether this is now reflected in his status. We note that seller document upload has been completed. Now we move on to the page of the nominated bank. The role of the nominated bank is to check the documents uploaded by the seller. If they are legitimate, the nominated bank credits the seller and debits from the issuing bank. First, let's check whether the status is reflected for the nominated bank. For the LOC with ID test 21, we clearly note that all steps have been completed till seller document upload. So the nominated bank now approves the LOC with ID test 21. Let us see whether this status has been reflected. We clearly note that the compliance check has been completed by the nominated bank. The nominated bank has completed approval of the seller's documents. We should now check whether the seller has got his money from the nominated bank. Remember that the initial amount with the seller was 100 and the amount in the letter of credit was 50. Due to the smart contracts in the blockchain, the seller's balance has been updated to 150. The documents approved by the nominated bank are now available for the issuing bank. The issuing bank checks these documents for compliance. I have already approved these documents for the LOC ID test 21. Let us see whether the LOC status has been updated. We note that the LOC status for ID test 21 has approval of the issuing bank. Now that the issuing bank has completed the compliance check for the documents, the buyer can view the documents. First, let's see what is the LOC status for the buyer. Clearly, we note that only document received by the buyer is pending. After the document received by the buyer, money gets transferred from the buyer to the issuing bank. We note that the initial balance in the buyer's account is 100. Now the buyer can view the documents for the LOC with ID test 21. Let us now check the buyer's balance. We note that the buyer's balance is 50. This is because an amount of 50 has been transferred from the buyer to the issuing bank. Let us also see the status of the LOC. Clearly, we note that all steps have been completed. Thus, our platform enables all stakeholders to check the status of the LOC and also transfers the money between the buyer and the seller.